So Nick, along those lines, I grew up with a single mom. Didn't have a dad around, to kind of learn a lot of this stuff. You mentioned on a previous podcast, building a legacy is an important part of a father's job. It's kind of part of his duty to his son. Talk about building that legacy when you don't already have one. I think it's a little bit easier to jump in on one, right? If you're, King John the Ninth, it's a little bit easier to know what your legacy is.
Yeah.
How do you build a legacy from scratch when you don't necessarily have one to jump into?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I was primarily raised by my mother. I spent the summers with my dad, but I had great grandfathers and I have a great dad. Like I love my dad. My dad was still very influential in my life, even though I only got to see him, 3 or 4 months out of the year. Um, it is a very, very good question because I see a lot of men that find themselves in a situation. In fact, when I talked about legacy, I had people say, yeah, dude, I don't have that. I don't know. I have no idea who my grandfather is. As far as my father, there isn't anything that man left me that I would want to share with anybody else. And that's the part where it's important to understand that no, you still have a legacy. It just begins with you. You're the one that starts it. You're the one that has made the decision to change the entire trajectory of a family. I mean, you think about that for a moment because you're right. It is easy to fall into a legacy and have something established to protect and to build upon. It's like you already have something built in that you love and that you're concerned about. But for you to get here, regardless of how you got here, there is a line of human beings that goes back for thousands of years, and now it's you. And it is shameful that the people before, whoever it was, didn't do enough to actually make sure that you had a legacy to protect or that you knew what that legacy was. But it is amazing when you think about it, that potentially hundreds or 1,000 years from now, somebody's going to look back and say, the reason why our family turned out the way it did is because somebody at some point made a decision that I'm not going to tolerate what I was given, and I'm going to make sure that my children have better. That's incredible. I mean, in some ways, if you think about it, that's just what an incredibly powerful impact to have on generations of people you will never meet. So I always tell people, if you can't look behind to something, that doesn't mean there's nothing to look forward to. And you're going to be the guy that sets the foundation for it. And that's incredible. That's incredible.
That's it. I'm motivated. I love it. It's great. Thank you.
Little twist on that question, kind of part B of that. I only have a daughter and we probably won't have any more. How do you think that, not that I don't leave a legacy not having a son, but
yeah,
I think there's a lot of guys who, it's something I've had to wrestle with a little bit too, like my name won't pass on and all that kind of stuff. Is that just culture? Is that just me being stupid? Or
no, I get it.
How does that play out also? What's your take on that one?
I think it would be totally disingenuous to tell another man, especially when I have a son, that like, oh, that's no big deal. It's like, no, I get it. I totally get it. I will say this though, the most important legacy I will pass on through my children is going to be their commitment to Christ. And that's not it's not a gender specific commitment, right? I'll put it this way. There is a lot of cultural push for men, especially men that see their traditional role of wanting to build that legacy and pass it on. The son passes on the name, but your blood passes on regardless. And most importantly, the values that you taught pass on regardless. And that's the real legacy. Like ultimately, when I stand before God, he is not going to be concerned on whether or not my name passed on. He's going to be concerned on whether or not I glorified him in a way that impacted others. And I hope I live my life in such a way where I am far more concerned about what God will say to me when I arrive than what man will say about me when I leave. And so again, the importance of legacy is every bit as relevant with daughters as it is with sons. And it is every bit as important, I think, to the source of all value, which is again our creator. And so I understand it. I understand it from a cultural level. I do. I think from a scriptural level, there is no less importance either way.
I agree. I just wanted to kind of flip the other side of the coin on the
Sure.
legacy piece, because it's
No,
natural for I think it's natural for people to gravitate to the sons only, and
absolutely. No,
so thank you.
I think it's really important. It was funny. My when my oldest daughter got engaged, her fiance's name is Nick. And I was teasing him. I said, well, you're going to take her name, right? And my daughter was like, we don't need two Nick Freitases. I'm like, okay, that's fair.
That's great.